So, first off, I just wanted to get you to state your whole name.
Okay. My maiden name also.
Yes.
Okay, it's Elza, E-L-Z-A, Connie. Well, it's Cornelia.
Okay. And your maiden name?
And Anderson.
And
Some of it.
Oh yeah. Well,
yeah, did get married.
Of course. What year were you born?
In 1932.
And why did your parents select this name for you? Did they tell you?
They had a friend, mother did, that had the name Elsa, and nobody else has ever heard it before. But I guess me and this one lady the only ones that had it. And she named me after her, and then my middle name is after mother.
Did you have a nickname? I guess, did you always go by Connie?
No.
No?
When I was growing up, it was Elsa.
Oh, okay.
And then after I got married in California, and tell you someone you name, and they'd look at you like you were crazy. So my middle name, started using Connie. John called me Connie, and so that's where I started that.
And about how old were you then?
About 18.
And where were you born at?
In the Madras community in Red River County.
Oh, you're gonna have to spell that. Where at? Where? You'll have to spell it.
Madras. It's just a community. It had school in Red River County.
Okay. And were there any other family members in your area at the time? Other family members like cousins, aunts, uncles?
Not in that area, no.
No,
we
it's
had
just
some at Bagwell, but not in that community.
Okay, it's just your mom and dad
and 10 kids.
Your families. 10 kids.
And I was the youngest. Well, I had the next to the oldest one died when she was 6 months old, so I only knew 9. 9 living.
And like, how big was the house that you lived in? Like, how many bedrooms? Well, the first one that you remember.
Oh, let's see. It had 3 bedrooms.
3
and
bedrooms.
A path.
And a path.
Not a bath.
Now, it's a question that she has on here. I know the answer, but anyway, did it have any electricity, air conditioning, telephones, TV?
No. Not in 1930. The first one I remember, I guess I was probably 4. Not in 1936, no.
Like I said, I know the answer, but it's a question on there. And next question is, were there any special items in the house that you remember, like any childhood toys or, something that you remember?
But Mother had a sewing machine, the pedal type, and I remember that machine more than anything because I got into more trouble going in there and peddling it when it would mess the threads up. But I remember the sewing machine more than I remember anything. I called it my toy, but Mama didn't.
Didn't think that, though. Imagine you getting in trouble. And you...
And my brother still has that machine.
Really? Doggy wants in.
That's a cat on there.
What was the earliest thing in your childhood that you remember? One of the farthest things back that you can remember.
I remember playing outside with my sister, who was 4 years older than me, and my brothers. And we played. I don't remember one thing we liked to play was the two oldest boys would get my sister. One would get one, and the other one would get me, and we'd play tug of war. They'd put us on their backs, and she and I would try to pull each other off the... Now, I was 4 and she was 8. But I was about as strong as she was.
I don't doubt that any. Can you describe a couple personalities of your family members, of like your immediate family, brothers or sisters? Or...
My sister, that's just older than me, was kind and gentle. I mean, she was slow to anger and just got along with everyone. And then my brother, that turned out to be a minister, his personality, he wanted to preach all the time.
Got to the right profession.
He would stand up on the stump and preach, and then one of my brothers would pass the hat, and I led the singing.
So what was it like growing up with 9 siblings?
Well, see, my oldest brother was 18 when I was born. So he and the next to the oldest, both boys, by the time I got to be 4, to where I could remember, they were gone from, huh?
You were saying the youngest one was 19? Or
No, he was 18 when I was born.
Mm-hmm. And he was the oldest?
Oldest.
Okay.
And then, so they were just about gone from home, by the time I got old enough to get out and remember a whole lot.
Right.
But it was great. The 3 boys, I thought I could do anything they could do, and I followed around behind them and got in trouble and
done everything that they did.
I tell you, they put me on one of these, little trees persimmons trees that you can pull over, and then you ride it. You let it up and you ride it. Well, my brother Dub told me that I could fly if I turned loose. I did.
Yeah, flew.
He didn't say a thing about the landing.
Nope.
But I learned not to cry. People ask me now, why don't you cry? And I said, I learned that early on because I couldn't go and play with them. If I cried, I had to go back to the house.
Oh. Yeah, you learn real quick. So, how many siblings, like, whenever you were growing up, were you actually in the house with?
Okay, there was 3 brothers and 3 sisters. And my sisters were 12. The twins were 12 when I was born, but they were still, back then, they didn't leave home until they were 20. To get a job.
Right. What kind of games did you play growing up? Do you remember the names of any of them?
Let's see. We played football. We played baseball. We played tag. We played. And Will may like to play. My sister, just older than me, liked to play with dolls, and I didn't like the dolls. and but I played with her. And we did a lot of ball playing.
Do you remember any of the games that you'd play with them that they don't really play anymore? That maybe some kids wouldn't even know what it is, or anything like that at all?
There's one thing we used to do was, you know how you get a wheel and you roll it, and you have a paddle that you keep it going, keep it rolling. That's one of our games that we played too, and you don't ever see that anymore.
No, it's too still.
I don't know what you'd call it, but roll the wheel, I guess.
Let's see. Did you have any favorite toys and why?
We didn't have a lot of toys.
Okay.
I mean, you
just play with each
other.
other.
We got one Christmas gift, and the boys usually got balls or bats or something like that, and they usually always got us a doll when I was little.
I'm sure, and you were real happy about those.
Oh, yeah, I was tickled to death. I went after the balls, you know. The Christmas tree was there. Well, I wasn't interested in the doll, but Mother made us clothes too for Christmas, and put them under the tree, you know.
Did you like
Not
those?
toys, but clothes.
Right. Did you like those though?
Yes, yes. She'd always make something kind of fancy, you know.
Mm-hmm. Right as fast as I can. And what was your favorite thing to do for fun, like out of school and stuff? Did you hang out? Were you able to hang out with friends, or did you just?
Well, every Sunday we'd go to church, and you went in a wagon, and there was usually a family we'd either go to their house or they'd come to our house.
Mm-hmm.
Sundays were great because everybody got to get together and play. And but we lived too far until I guess I was about 5 when we didn't live far from anybody, but. Mama would say there was always somebody there, but
Okay, and I know the answer to this question too. Did you have any family chores? What were they, and what was your least favorite?
oh, let's see. My chores was, as I got a little older, I had to bring in the wood for the stove in the kitchen, the cook stove, and that was probably twice a day because she cooked so much. And then I had to feed the chickens and gather the eggs. Those were basically my chores.
And your least favorite thing that you would have to do?
The wood. That was work.
Did you ever get an allowance for chores as you were growing up?
I didn't know what that was.
Your allowance was being able to eat. Well, did you go to school when you were a child, and what was it like for you?
Oh yeah. I started when I was, I guess, 6. in the first grade. I skipped the second grade and went into the third. And I loved it. It was just a little country school. I went there until I went into the fifth grade.
Until you went into the fifth grade?
Yeah. And I had to start the Clarksville Elementary because we moved closer to the bus line and I couldn't walk to school by myself. Now you talking about something scary. You go out of a little two-room school into elementary at Clarksville that had 2 stories to it. And housed 6 grades. That was scary.
I can imagine.
Because I was a year younger than I should have been going into the 5th grade anyhow.
Yeah, because you had skipped a second. Yeah. What do you think some of your best and worst subjects were?
My best and worst subjects?
Or I guess which ones you liked the most
my best
and the least?
subject was English. I loved grammar. Of course, I murder it now, but I like grammar and reading.
And your worst or your least favorite?
Math. And I became an accountant.
Right. I was just about to say that. And in 5th grade, once you went to Clarksville, did you go to any other schools after that?
No.
You just graduated from Clarksville?
Graduated from Clarksville.
After high school, did you go to any secondary school?
I went to Business College.
Where?
I took a 10-month general accounting course in Enid, Oklahoma.
My best friend's from Enid.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, that's where I went to school. I told Tanner we were the only people getting an education in Oklahoma. But that was a good business college. We started school at 8 or 8:30 and we quit at 4. Had the same subjects that the girl that was going to Oklahoma State had that lived down below us. And she had the same books I had. And it took her 4 years to get what I got in 9 months.
Wow.
But I had to take, in the general accounting, you had to take business letter writing, business math, business law, spelling, penmanship, and then the accounting, of course, and one other one. And you took a business, when you first went in there, they assigned you this business, and you did all the books, the invoicing, the banking, you did that for 9 months. You took that business through 9 months.
Basically like a hands-on training while still in school.
While you were salesmanship, that's what we had to take. And it wasn't selling products, it was selling yourself.
And that's a good one that a lot of people use even today. What high school activities and sports did you participate in? Probably didn't participate in
back
sports.
then the girls didn't have very many sports.
Right.
But I was in chorus for 4 years. And basically that's about it, because we lived out in the country and there was no way for me to get to and from the school because we had no vehicle.
Do you remember any fads from your youth? Popular hairstyles or clothes, shoes, or?
Oh yeah, when my senior year,
Mm-hmm.
the poodle skirts and the saddle Oxfords came in. That was in 49. And they really got popular in the early 50s.
Mm-hmm. The poodle skirts and what?
Huh?
What else was it?
They were called saddle Oxfords. They were brown and white shoes. And they called them saddle Oxfords. Why, I don't know.
It's not every day that I run into something that I didn't know. Okay. Who were your childhood heroes?
Childhood hero.
Someone or multiple people that you looked up to when you were a kid.
Well, my daddy was the best. And then there was a man at Madras that I really thought was Mr. Byron Pace. They had a store there in Madras, and he was just a super upright man that treated all of us kids with respect, not like we were little hoodlums.
Mm-hmm.
Even though sometimes we didn't deserve it. But my daddy was my biggest hero.
And other than just him being your father, why did you look up to him so much?
My dad?
Mm-hmm.
Well, he was hardworking and honest, and he taught us to respect life. And that we weren't better than, nobody was better than we were, and we were better than nobody. So that stuck in my mind all my life. And another thing, now that I look back, he taught us that there was no racism in our house.
And that's really impressive for
then,
that day and time, right?
And he helped some black people out at Vandalia, out east of Clarksville, buy their land. He co-signed the note,
mm-hmm.
and then made them go pay their taxes every year. And you know that 3 of those people, the land is still in that name. They still have the land.
That is amazing.
And you know, I mean, you just. But I tell you what he told me when I was little, that God created all of us,
mm-hmm.
and black and white. He just left them in the oven a little too long. So that stuck with me all my life. You know?
One of those stories that your parents tell you. You know, a lot of times we remember a lot of stuff that, you know, that they said. It's some of the most randomest things.
Let's see. I think the funniest story that they told was the preacher that married them
mm-hmm.
at White Rock out there turned out to be a chicken thief. And Daddy teased Mama all the time about they weren't married because that preacher wasn't authentic. He was a chicken thief. That was one of the funniest ones we heard.
What was your favorite type of music and some of your favorite songs growing up?
Of course, we listened to country music, but I like all kinds of music. And I like the big band era with Bing Crosby and Doris Day and course, White Christmas was my favorite. But I also like the country singers too, except I didn't like Ernest Tubbs. But
Will you name some of those favorite artists again?
Bing Crosby, Doris Day, and Tony Bennett. He was back there then too. And,
I even know Tony Bennett.
Sing and Sway with Sammy Kaye. Just the music itself was good. And I like the Jitterbug.
Oh, yes.
I still like the Jitterbug.
My mom was made some kind of joke not too long ago, and I made a joke with her about her being from the Jitterbug era, and she laughed about it. She said, "Actually, I wasn't, but I still learned it."
Right.
And so she taught it to me and a couple of my friends, and we were just playing around in the living room that day.
Neat.
Did you have any pets? And if so, what kind and what were their names?
Oh, I always had cats. One was a black cat, and her name was Blackie. Can you imagine?
Right.
And I had a dog named Petey. Those were my favorites.
What was the dog's name?
Petey. P-E-T-E-Y, I guess.
What historic world events had the most impact on you while you were growing up, and did any of them personally affect your family?
World War II. All 5 of my brothers were overseas at the same time.
And how did that affect, like, all of your family?
Well, Mom and Daddy aged about 15 years in 3 years. We didn't want to go to the mailbox. Anybody, stranger came, we didn't want to go to the door.
Right. I can only imagine.
Hair raising.
And do you remember, like, any, I don't know how to say it, like, noticing like the difference in their personalities, like they were gone?
Oh,
and
yeah.
Did they just snap back whenever they came back?
No, no. This post-war stuff they have now, my brothers had it when they came back. The 3 younger ones were at home, you know, still. And, yeah, they had a hard time adjusting. But they didn't holler, "Oh, poor pitiful me," they got back into life.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm sorry, I don't mean to sound like I'm not feeling compassion for these boys that are coming back now. But I do think that those boys were a little bit stronger than these are now because they had had some hard knocks in life.
Right.
And most of these that are coming back, going over and coming back now, have had life easy. That's my opinion.
Mm-hmm. And what were you saying about, like, the post-war, like, once they came back home, like?
Yeah, they didn't know what to do with themselves. They couldn't get geared up to work, you know. I mean, they rented some land and planted cotton, and Daddy and me and my sister worked most of it. And I told Daddy one time, I said, "I'm not working this anymore. They're running up and down the road, you know." And Daddy explained to me that they were going through a lot of trouble trying to adjust after being through. We never would know what it was like, you know. And that we would work that land, and we did.
So now, knowing what everybody knows now and stuff, so like your brothers, like they suffered from like PTSD.
Exactly, yeah.
All of them did? I mean, I
Well,
assume
the three, yeah. The three that came to our house. I don't know about the older ones because they were married.
I mean, you hear about that a lot, but, you know, I think now, even with me, you know, I've always been interested in older generations and stuff like that, but even me, like, it's one thing to hear it and know, oh, well, you know what PTSD is and how it affects people, but, like, seeing it firsthand like you had to have is completely different.
Tom and I, my brother, had spent 2 years in Normandy. Mm-hmm. I mean, he was part of that invasion and everything. Didn't come in from the sea. He came in inland, went across. Mm-hmm. And we were walking down the street. He came to the high school, and we were walking back downtown, and a car backfired, and there was a bench sitting over on the sidewalk, you know, beside the sidewalk. And before I knew what had happened, he had gotten under that bench. I mean, he had just hit the ground and rolled until he got under that bench. And that's one of the things that he went through. And my brother that was in the Navy, he couldn't stand to hear an airplane if it was descending because he thought it was one of those suicide planes coming after him. Mm-hmm. And Dub never did say too much about it. He's just quieter. They didn't say anything about it. It's just that you could watch them and tell. But
right. Well, hearing different people's testimonies about their families during all that, that's usually the general consensus is the people that come back just didn't talk. Just they left it where it was.
Right. Of course, you didn't shut Joe up. He's the one that turned out to be the preacher.
How is the world today different from what it was like when you were a child?
Well, everybody has more conveniences, you know. Everybody's accustomed to having appliances and bathrooms and running water and all of this. And when I was growing up, there was, in our community, there was very few people that had it in the country. Now, the ones in town, I'm sure did, but I didn't know them. But not all of the houses had all of those conveniences back then, though, in town.
Right.
But now, if we had to do without them, and I'm one of them, I would think the world was coming to an end there.
Learn to be dependent on them.
Really? Do.
Okay, and
oh, and another thing about the world nowadays and what it was like when I was growing up, we had morals.
Yeah.
And more people were, I think, of course there's more people now, so I can't say that, but I think more people were more religious minded or church oriented anyhow. And therefore they had respect for other people. I think lack of respect is one of the bad things too.
Were you ever mentioned in a newspaper or some kind of periodical whenever you were growing up?
Just in the choral programs, so.
Oh, like whenever y'all competed?
Right.
your friends growing up?
Pardon me?
And who were your friends growing up? Like, do you have a lot of friends, a small amount of friends, or?
Well, of course, in the small community, I had every kid in the community, you know, we were all friends. And then when I was at high school, of course, I had a special girlfriend. I think everybody does once they get to be a teenager.
And what was her name? Did you say you had one? You had like
One
a best
special,
friend.
One special, yeah.
And what was her name?
Mildred Pryor. And we moved to Bagwell when I was 13, and that's when I met her. And we're still good friends.
Oh, really?
She lives in Longview.
That's
you know
really
Norma,
that's amazing.
Norma Brooks,
Mm-hmm.
her sister.
Really?
Norma and I were good friends too, but Mildred and I were in the same class. We just liked the same things. And
Describe a typical family dinner when you were a kid. Did you all eat together as a family? Who normally done the cooking? Like what were your some of your favorite foods?
when I was growing up, Mama did the cooking, and yes, we all ate at the table. And my favorite food was her fried chicken, hot biscuits, and gravy. When there was 8 of us at home, she made biscuits in a pan that was this long and this wide.
Wow.
And she had the flour in a bowl, and so she'd put the milk and the baking powders and stuff and just put enough flour in it to make the biscuits. And I tried that one time, and you couldn't eat them.
That's usually the case. My great aunt taught me a recipe to make homemade biscuits that she made all the time. They were my favorite ever. Tried to make them myself, never could get it to work. Never could. Went with her to the grave. Sorry.
And blackberry cobbler.
Sure, that was good. And how were the holidays growing up? Like, did all of your family, not just your immediate family, but did all your family come together? Did how were your holidays?
When I was younger, of course, we had just immediate family because our other family members lived in Bagwell, and so we lived the other side of Clarksville, northeast of Clarksville, so it was about probably 18 miles.
Mm-hmm.
And you didn't get in a wagon and go there for holidays.
Oh, okay. So did that change as you grew up? Did you?
Well, when we moved to Bagwell, they were just about a mile down the road from us, and so yeah, we'd get together then after I was, a teenager. You smell Let's Go?
I do. Who was the oldest relative that you remember as a child, and what did you remember about them?
My daddy's mama, my grandma. Let's see, I guess she was probably around 80 when I was like in the 6th or 7th grade. And she was about 4'9", weighed about 90 pounds, and was as spry and was always getting us in trouble. She was part Indian, and she had real high cheekbones, and her hair was that real coarse, you know, like the Indian hair, and it was a deep auburn, never turned white.
Wow.
I thought that was odd.
Uh-huh. You never really hear that. Do you know, like, what percentage Indian she was, or?
Let's see. Her daddy was Irish, and her mother was... She was about a quarter Indian. Because we don't have enough in us to go get any help over in Indian Nation.
Is there any type of naming tradition in your family, or was there at the time, like giving your firstborn a certain name or nothing like that?
They gave me that name, I think, because they ran out after 10 kids.
And of all the things you learned from your parents, which do you feel was the most valuable to you?
The Gospels. They taught us that we should study the Bible and follow it.
And last question, if you could have any other profession other than the one you have, what would it have been, and why wasn't it your first choice?
Nursing. And it wasn't my first choice because I would have had to go away from... I went to my sister's and went to business college, but I would have had to move away, and Daddy didn't have the money for the nursing. I remember what the business college cost me, $25 a month.
Wow, wish college cost me that much.
And I went to work on Saturdays, bought my books and supplies. But I'm glad I chose the accounting profession.
Let you work from home and let you work longer. Okay. Looks like that's the end of it.
Okay.
Well, thank you. You
You're
know,
welcome.
it seems like our normal visiting time.
Right, right.
But thanks for helping me out with this.
You heard a few stories you hadn't heard.
Yeah, I did hear a few.
Yeah.
Thank you.
About my parents not being married because of chicken thief.
Uh-huh.
Daddy would just make Mama so mad. Oh, she'd just be
I can
furious.
imagine.
But he'd do it when there was somebody there.
Oh, of
Always.
course. Someone
Always.
to show off in front
Yeah.
of.